Hi guys, it's Jason from the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm just dropping in with a quick reaction video with regards to the new contract for Dan James, the signing of Bornauw from Werder Bremen, and the signing of, or the not signing of, Noah Sadiki and the signing of him to Sunderland. Firstly, let's discuss Dan James. Dan James has done extremely well over the last 2 years in the Championship with Leeds United. I think he got a rough end of the stick with his Premier League time at Leeds United as well. You know, big money move from Manchester United in a time where we were a little bit all over the place. In that particular window, we signed Junior Firpo and Dan James, and we don't look to really properly progress on from what we did season one back in the Premier League. So not only that, but then he got forced to play as the number 9 because we didn't recruit properly. We forced him into a position in which he wasn't really that comfortable. He played there under Bielsa because of his ability to be able to press and his, you know, explosive pace in round the back. But he's not a finisher. He's more useful and consistent when he can get a little bit of chalk on his boots, get to the byline, hug the touchline as far as he can, and burst down the outside. And under Daniel Farke, he has without a doubt developed and pushed his game on. And I think he deserves another 4 years. I really do. He's coming into the prime of his career. I think it's a great move, and it also helps us protect his value. You know, after a season in the Premier League, if he has an alright season and we decide to progress on, hopefully that's something that we can do and we might have to do, we'll be able to recoup some serious value for Dan James from potential promoted clubs coming into the Premier League. So, great news on Dan James, very happy, and I expect to see him start most of our games out on the right wing next season. Secondly, let's cover Noah Sadiki second. Noah Sadiki was, I thought, the B version, the plan B to Diarra, who obviously also went to Sunderland. And the profile of the player was extremely exciting for what I think our midfield needs. So this is an extremely disappointing eventuality that he's ended up, like Diarra, going to one of our promotion rivals when it looks like he was one of the main targets. And now I'm sure that the 49ers and the club have got alternatives, and I'm sure that we're going to see a move happen in that area of the pitch. It looks like Stack, again from the Bundesliga, is probably going to be one of the names that looks like coming in for that position. But I think we need more than one. Now, it goes without saying that the transfer fee is extremely high. I actually think they've overpaid. I think they've overpaid dramatically, to be honest. I think the value probably would be more in and around 10 to 12 million. However, it's not our money as fans, and you know what Sunderland are doing they're having to give themselves, they are giving themselves a real fist at actually being able to be competitive and stay up next season. I think they have more work to do than we do. I think they have more work to do than Burnley do as well. So it is on them to get about it and get these deals done, and they might have to overpay on wages and on transfer fees to make that happen. So some of this makes sense, but they have now spent nearly, well, it is over 100 million if Petrovic gets over the line as well from Chelsea. But they're making moves. They're making some exciting moves. So for Sunderland, I think fair play. I think they're a similar size club to us. I think we're probably just slightly bigger given the histories, but they have a bigger attendance, mainly because of the bigger stadium, I think. You know, the bias of a Leeds fan can kind of sometimes make us feel like we're levels above Sunderland. The truth is we were both promoted only a matter of months ago, and we're in a similar situation. I think we have a better fist of it. I think we've probably got more available full finances, but because of the PSR limitations, I actually think Sunderland are probably in a bit of an easier position to spend it. So it does create an interesting dynamic in the transfer window. So fair play to Sunderland, they've got it done. Am I a little bit worried? Yes, I'm a little bit worried that Sunderland have been able to steal the match on 2 of the players that we obviously really wanted. But I'm not totally worried about the window as a full perspective. So let's see what comes in the coming weeks. And lastly, let's talk about Bornauw, the new defensive signing that we've made from Werder Bremen. Excited about this one, although then keeping a bit of a lid on it, if that makes sense. We've had discussions within the group. Some think that Bornauw will start over Joe Rodon. others, like myself, think that Joe Rodon and Biol will be the starting partnership, and Bornauw will have to work for his place within the system. I do think it leaves questions open for Pascal Struijk. I think them questions were there anyway. As a lot of you will know, I do think it's time for him to probably move on. However, now it looks like he's probably going to be fourth choice centre back. So what then happens to him? Where does his game time come from? Are we going to be playing three at the back with wing backs? That could be a potential that we see in the Premier League. I do think there's a potential for that happening. We did see it last pre-season, and then we didn't see it during the year, but maybe that's something that Daniel Farke will play with. You know, at the moment it looks as if we're not standing an out-and-out tricky number 10, which I do find interesting for the 4-2-3-1. We need a 10. Brendan Aronson's not going to be able to do that role on his own at the Premier League level. So it's an interesting one. It leaves a lot of questions, does this signing, for the current state of the players that we've got. Joe Rodon, Pascal Struijk in particular. Max Verber, I think, will end up leaving pretty soon. And I think in terms of transfer fees coming in and going out, Max Verber for around 6-7 million, Bornauw in for 5 million. It's a bargain. It's an absolute bargain. Injury record is a little bit of a worry. Missed a lot of last season because of injuries, but in terms of the profile, again, he fits the profile of the signings that we've been making in the physically demanding players, really dominant in the air, play Champions League football, you know. So he's in his prime. Again, another 26-year-old through the doors. So lots to be excited about with this signing. I do think more so for me, it's going to end up being a bit of a squad signing, but exciting. So to wrap up in conclusion, a lot of news going on around Leeds United in terms of transfers in and out. A lot of rumours